most powerful touring boxer of all time. The fact that the top dogs Harley-Davidson and Indian send ultra-thick heavyweights with fat two-cylinder engines on the road is nothing new. But now there's a new big ship on the starting line. The BMW R Transcontinental wants to live up to its name and has nothing less than the biggest production boxer of all time in its chassis. It is in the nature of man to judge hastily. So if he looks at the value on the display of our 1000 PS scales, while the BMW R Transcontinental is being weighed, he will certainly assume for the time being that this machine is by no means easy to move, but at best drives reasonably straight, and that also only if very strong men sit on it. And you can't really blame anyone. This battleship weighs in at a whopping 441 kilos fully fueled and ready to go. Fortunately, curiosity is part of human nature. And so I think to myself, well, let's have a look. No sooner said than done. Getting onto the mighty machine works very well. With a seat height of 740 millimeters, the BMW R Transcontinental can even be climbed by very small riders. The biggest hurdle on this fat bird is actually lifting it from what is probably the world's longest kickstand. That's when you really feel the mass, which you have to adjust from diagonal to straight. Then you quickly get over the brief moment of shock when the pistons of the Boxer two-cylinder engine cause a noticeable left jerk when starting, and then the spook is already over. From then on, everything is surprisingly easy to manage. The biggest Boxer of all times not only convinces with its respectable power of 91 horsepower and the enormous torque of at least 150 Nm between 2,000 and 4,000 revolutions per minute, but also with the astonishingly smooth throttle response from far below, which obviously simplifies the work of driving away immensely with such a colossus. Once you're on the move, you'll enjoy the unrestrained lard, which maltreats the free-running shaft drive, but we already know that from and appreciate it in the other R18 models. In terms of handling, the R18 Transcontinental can't be faulted either, at least not if you see its intended use as a comfortable touring motorcycle, because it is clearly desirable that the front and rear suspension elements are more inclined towards comfort than sport. Accordingly, the R18 Transconti sometimes sways in fast curves and reminds you that it prefers a more comfortable ride. In tighter corners, on the other hand, you can rely on the smooth response of the engine and drive through the radius as if on rails. However, you should also stay on rails because course corrections are also acknowledged with noticeable unrest in the chassis. The same applies to the brakes as to the chassis. You have to know what works and what does not. So if you're expecting a super sporty crisp brake, you'll have to dial down the displacement within the BMW range, and in many cases you'll find what you're looking for on the R18 Transcontinental. Instead, you get plenty of braking power if you pull the lever properly. This is also very similar to the performance we already know from the rest of the R18 models. Speaking of the other R18 models, the R18 Transcontinental is most closely related to the R18B, which I had the pleasure of driving before the Transconti. So I'd like to measure the TC against the simply named R18B bagger version as well, because the two models share exactly the same wheelbase of 1695 mm, and also the travel-dependent rear shock with level compensation, the large tank with a capacity of 25 liters, and the massive 49er fork are installed in the Transconti version, which is even more suitable for touring. So it's really the long-distance relevant things like the large top case, efficient wind deflectors, and the higher windshield that really make the R18 Transcontinental even better for transcontinental travel. No man is the omen. However, exactly these fine gimmicks make the R18 TC around 30 kilograms heavier than the R18B. And most of that is in the upper part of the machine, far away from the center of gravity. After all, you can argue with the Transcontinental without a guilty conscience that really everything is in and on it, what it needs on the really big trip. 3 driving modes: rain, rock and roll, automatic stability control, engine drag torque control, integral ABS, keyless ride system, huge 10.25 inches TFT color display with full connectivity, LED lights all around, heated grips, heated saddle, pannier system, and the cool Marshall music system are already standard. Who believes now that thereby the accessory list is omitted? Airs with BMW naturally. Owing to the many, really bold options, 719 parts, one can individualize the already fully equipped R18 Transcontinental still fine. The Galaxy Dust metallic paint job alone, with its interesting flip-flop effect on our test bike, is bold and requires a certain extroversion on the part of the owner. On a technical level, however, there really isn't all that much in the way of extras, only adaptive cornering lights, hill start control, a reverse gear, and the radar-supported ACC can be ordered additionally and actually make sense on such a travel bike. Only the fact that the windshield is screwed on tightly and can't even be adjusted manually can be classified as a minor drawback, because sometimes you might want to let the mild breeze blow around your grinning mouth. If you're quick-witted, you could immediately counter that this would increase the weight at the front in a high position. In terms of driving dynamics, this is indeed a plausible counter-argument. My personal problem, and not so much that of the R18 Transcontinental, is that I immediately think of the K16 GTL when I think of such a mighty BMW tourer. Thanks to its silky running 6-cylinder engine and braking system with its brute force, the K16 GTL exudes an even more relaxed sovereignty than the R18 TC with its unmistakable, but nevertheless rougher boxer engine. However, the Transconti unabashedly takes aim at the established competition from the US. With its 2 massive cylinders and these noticeable good vibrations, and has a big bonus. If you want to be different from everyone else, you can't get past the Bavarian interpretation of the ultimate traveler. The NW is logically expanding the range of the R18 series. After the naked, lightly disguised bagger version, the R18 Transcontinental is the true touring steamer, and as is so often the case with such heavy lumps, it is only the weight figure of 441 kilos with a full tank that is shocking. Because once the Transconti is underway, everything is suddenly comparatively easy. Of course, quick changes of direction are taboo, and the brake needs manual power. But the comfort on long distances is wonderful thanks to the cozy ergonomics and soft chassis. The largest standard boxer engine also cuts a good figure, noticeable vibrations, but not too much. The fairing is also acceptable, even if some competitors even have an electrically adjustable windshield. The rest of the bling-bling is absolutely state-of-the-art, with a Marshall music system, 10.25 inches color TFT, and much more.